Hey, everyone. Goeiedag. Sorry for my hard G. I live in a small town in the north called Amsterdam. Do you know it? And today I want to talk to you about progressive web apps. Are we all developers? 20%? 30? 40? Yeah, I think we're all developers. I'm going to tell you a secret and a little bit of a bad news. When we're building progressive web apps, we always forget about the users. And for some reason, when you're building progressive web apps, it's always about the technology. But when we start talking to users, when you start showing them native apps and progressive web apps, sometimes they can't tell the difference if this is a native app or a progressive web app. But it's not because it's built in React or Vue. It's not because of web components. It's just because of the user experience and the user interface, and also the reliability. So today I want to talk to you about progressive web app from the user experience part, from the user interface part. But I don't want to talk about it. I actually want to live code. So let me plug my screen. And you know the thing about live codes, they are quite dangerous. Especially with PWAs, thank you. We might need a new domain. So because live codes are dangerous, I thought, how can we make them even more dangerous? And I found an idea, which is, I did not prepare for it. I'm actually going to ask you for, we're going to do some improv. Did anyone see improv shows sometime? So in improv, you basically ask the audience for suggestions, and you do based on their suggestions. So, anyone building a PWA? Yes, what is it about, if you don't mind saying?
It's a corporate website.
Okay, boring. Next. That's too meta if we do PWA about PWAs, but I'll keep it in mind. Other suggestions? So technically in improv, you're supposed to take whatever the audience says. I'm violating it now. Super exciting. Yeah? Okay. Anything else? No, the thing is, I want to combine ideas. That's, it's not a no. Conference app and? Digital dictionary. All right, how can we combine all of these together? Any more ideas? So, I like the unicycle one. Okay, we'll do something about unicycles. So, based on my introduction, I want to tell you that a successful progressive web app is not just about having scripts, Serviceworker and the web app manifest, but it's about when you meet user expectations. So I want to show you this, and I will actually take questions while I do the live code. So if you have questions, please go to slide.do, just in the URL, /questions, and I'll have some of the questions on my phone here. If I forget to take questions, you can remind me. So we're going to do something about unicycle first. These are the questions. Yep. So what we will have here is the setup that I had. I think you can't see anything yet. All right. Can you see my screen? Yeah. So we just have an index.html, src index.js, they're all empty. And we have a Webpack configuration. It's pretty much very basic. And I'm going to start with the index. And we need to just run Webpack Dev Server. So we run Webpack Dev Server, and now we're up and running on localhost 8080. And we're going to start building our app, which is a, do people who unicycle have a different weather? No? So we take the unicycle with, what were other ideas? Someone said something about tasks list? Yeah, what was it? Okay, so we're fixing unicycle something. So unicycle repair. All right. I'm going to start building this app, and we may use web components if we have time later on, but I'm going to start with a concept that you see a lot in native apps, and that's called the app shell. Does anyone know what an app shell is? So 10%. The app shell is, if you open any native app, like the Twitter app, just half a millisecond, 1 millisecond before you get the content, you're going to have the app shell, which is the structure of the app without any content, without any data. And this is something users are used to a lot in native apps because every single app has it, on Android and on iOS. So even the camera app, if you open the camera app, just a split of a second before the camera loads, you're going to have the app shell, and then the camera is just a black screen. So let me show you what I mean by that, and let's start building our app shell. And I'm kind of doing server-side rendering, but just directly by inlining the app shell, because the app shell is the first thing you want to render on the screen. So I'm just going to write the HTML inside of here, which may seem weird, but you're not writing everything, just the app shell. So let's start with the header. Oh, first we'll need to add a script so we can have a live reload. That's going to be main.js. Yeah, now we have live reload working. Let's start with the header, and then we will call it unicycle repair. Then put that in h1. And then we basically have something that looks from the 90s, so let's go ahead and add some inline styles. I'm also inlining the styles because you're giving full priority to these HTML and CSS, and potentially JavaScript later on. You want the browser to render this first thing. So then we give this an ID, just trying to separate semantics from CSS. And then we say the header will have a certain background color. Let's use a blue, for example. And of course, in my spare time, I memorize color numbers. And then we give it a color white. Oh, but I like to use CSS properties. So let's say this is going to be the primary. And then we put it on the root. The root is basically the root of the document, the most parent element, I think. And then we need to remove the margin on the body. And then the h1 has a margin. We can also margin 0. For fonts, when building progressive web apps, you can, if you really care about performance and you want to have something that looks like native apps, a lot of native apps use the system font, which is San Francisco on iOS, Roboto on Android, etc. You can now do it as easy as system-UI. But browser support isn't great. You can fall back to all of this. It's a lot, yeah, but it basically tries every single font on every operating system. But again, you can replace all of this with just system UI, and I think browser support for it is a 70%. But if you want to have the best support, keep it, and then start with system UI. And now if I reload the page, and you inspect, and go to the rendered font, it's an SFNS. This is San Francisco because I'm on a Mac. If you open the same website on an Android, it's going to be Roboto. And the nice thing about it is you're not wasting resources. You're not getting anything from the internet. You could still use web fonts. This would only be for the app shell, for the system, for everything that has to do with your app, but not the content of it. So, I know it looks horrible, but give me some time. We can also say that the navbar will have a height of 60 pixels. And then you can give that as a height here. And then we need to center things, so display flex or grid. There's now, I think, place items center, but we can do align items center, justify content center, and it's all centered. Cool. And now, technically, this is an app shell. Maybe we can also give a slight gray for the body. But I want to take it a step further. And this step further is, I like to call it advanced app shell. And this is also something you see in native apps, which is a lot of the apps have a navigation at the bottom, a tabs navigation. Does anyone know why it's at the bottom? Yes, I see a lot of this. It's because the thumb, most people use the app with their thumb. So it's conveniently positioned at the bottom because you can easily navigate between them. So I want to do this tabs over here, and I want to show you. Hopefully you will learn a couple of things from it, because I think nowadays it's quite easy to make these tabs if you focus a lot on the UX as well. So we can make a tabs, and then those will be links with a class tab. And inside of it, we will have a SVG icon. So let's go and find some icons from Material Icons. Do they have a unicycle? Bike, yeah. Wheel? Yeah, but I don't think they have a unicycle. Wheel? No. Okay. Technically, we're supposed to get 4 different icons, but I'm just going to use the same one to save up time, because we will have 4 pages at the bottom. So I'm going to place this over here. I'm also inlining the SVG just for to save some time. Add a P here, and that's going to be tasks if we said we are repairing some of the things. And then I'm going to duplicate this a few more times, because we're going to have several tabs. Okay, and this will be, let's say, help. This will be profile, and then stock. We have the tabs. I know they look horrible. We want to position them at the bottom in a way that they look like tabs. So let's go ahead and make the tabs, give it a display grid, and then grid template columns. You can do 1fr 4 times, or repeat for 1fr. And now let's give it a background color of white. Cool. And position it at the bottom. So fixed, bottom 0. And now you need to give it the left 0, right 0. It's getting there. Need to remove the text decoration on the link. And basically place everything in the center. Right, and we still need just a line item center. Do we have any questions? Let's see. What is it like to be a Microsoft MVP? Let's talk after the lecture. Oh, I can tell you, we get a free Visual Studio Code. Sorry, what? Oh, slido/questions. So, yeah, it doesn't show here. Oh, there are a lot more questions. I didn't see that. Do we need Webpack for this? Yes, I am using Webpack. It has a really small configuration. I wanted to do it with Parcel, but I also want to use script type module, and they don't support that yet. It's just a entry output. But please don't use this for production. This is horrible for production. What about user experience when it comes to installing the app? Any recommendations? Thank you. We will actually talk about this in a minute. So let me just figure out why this is not working. Let's give it also a height. Tabs height, 70 pixels. So you might be wondering, why am I giving the height as a CSS variable? So I want to show you that in a minute. Okay, this P has a lot of margins, so tabs P to 0. Oh, I did forget something, which is the box sizing border box. That's one of the annoying things when you start completely from scratch. So yeah, no difference, but that's fine. It's planned. Okay, this is our app so far, and then let's revert to color initial. And then one more thing on these is, by default, we're going to give it an opacity of 0.6. And only when the tab is active, then we give it an opacity of 1. And we can also transition this. Now we go down, and only the first tab will be active. And now what we need to do next is the screens. So what will go inside of it? So let's go ahead and create the main section, which will have the screens. And then we will have a screen times 4. Let's say A, B, C, D. These are the 4 screens that we're going to have. And are you laughing at my code? Then we're going to put these screens next to each other, but every screen should be full screen, more or less. So let's do that with the screens. Let's give it a height of, so what would the height be here? Not 100%, not 100 VH. So we will use calc with 100 VH minus the CSS variables, so the navbar height minus the var tabs height. And just so you see, you may need to close your eyes. Yeah, that's working. You can only tell if you do this, like screw it up, and then, yeah, that's working. Now, every screen has to be full screen and inside of it. So this is where you can also do display grid, and then grid template columns, repeat 4. It's not going to be 1FR, but just show you. What will it be? 100 VW, and that's also planned. It's because you want to add the overflow X scroll, hopefully. No, it's because the screen, sorry? Oh, thank you. And now look at it, look how beautiful it is. You scroll, you get to the second page. I know what you're wondering. What if you release mid? Yeah, it sucks. How did I not think about this? How can we fix that? So I was just seeing if somebody knows about this new web API, CSS property. It's the scroll snap API. So scroll snap type, you're saying on the x-axis, I want to have scroll snapping, which means if you scroll and release, it's going to snap to one of the pages. So scroll snap type on which axis, X, and it's mandatory. And then you have to say on the children, this no scroll snap align will be start or center. There will be no difference here because it's full page. And look at this. Let's enable, disable. Scroll, release, it's going to snap back to A. Scroll, release, it's going to snap back to, yeah. So, wow. Very political question. Try to get that at the end. For these ones, I would recommend image CDNs like Cloudinary. So any suggestions for good tooling to create various, startup screen images. Yeah, I found a tool once for iOS, but I don't remember what it is, sorry. But we can research it together if you ask me later on. Nice. All right, next. What shall we do next? Okay, so eventually these will be web components. Hopefully we'll have time. So that's going to be app tasks. And then this is going to be app stock. And then, yeah, same for the rest. And the next thing I want to do is I want to tell the user, hey, this is an app that you might need. Why don't you add it to the home screen? But in a way that is not very annoying. We're not going to have a pop-up nor a toast. It's going to be quite smooth by showing this icon over here. So let's copy it. And then let's place it over here. Give this an ID. So add to home screen, A2HS. And now it looks great. White. And then position it on the right. So position absolute, right 15 pixels. Yeah, it's going to be here, but by default it's going to be hidden. So it's going to be display none. Only when we give it the class show, then we will show it, we will display block. But before we get to that, you cannot ask the user to install the app if you don't have a service worker. So we're going to go ahead and generate a service worker. And you need to install, I am using Webpack here. So you need to install the Workbox Webpack plugin, which I already installed to avoid awkward internet issues. So we'll just require Webpack Workbox Webpack plugin. Yeah, it exists. And Workbox is a library that helps you generate service worker code. So you can integrate it with Webpack. It becomes so much easier. And so we can read the plugin here, which is Workbox plugin. And we add a new plugin, new Workbox plugin. And under this object, there's the Inject manifest plugin. And it just takes two options. The source of the service worker, so you're going to provide it with a partial piece of service worker. It's going to take it and it's going to generate a new one. So that will be src_sw.js, which we need to create. And the one it generates is sw.js. So we need to create our src_sw. And we also need to restart Webpack. Okay. And now we have to import I was hoping you wouldn't notice it. We have to import the library from CDN. This is changing in the next version. It will be bundled in your own repository, but for now you have to import it from CDN. And what's annoying is that you have to always manage the versioning here. And what you tell Workbox is simply, you use the pre-caching module, and then you ask it to pre-cache and route a certain variable that will be dynamically injected, which is called pre-cache manifest. So this variable will be injected. I will show you in a minute. This will be the list of the assets that you have, and this will instruct Workbox to pre-cache them when the service worker gets installed, so that if we go offline, the user can still get access to the app shell. So this is good for now. We need to register the service worker, so we can do that in index. So if service worker exists in Navigator, just to make sure it doesn't break on older browsers. And then we give it the path of the service worker. This returns a promise, so you can .then, but I'm going to assume that my code is perfect and we don't need that. And now we have to go full screen. Let's see. Yeah, you start seeing these logs from Workbox. They only run on localhost, and they tell you what's going on. You can also go to application. You will see a service worker is now installed. This one here, sw.js. This shouldn't have been clicked. And if you go to the cache storage, we have the Workbox pre-cache that is pre-caching this file. Now, there's a bit of magic. Let's go back and cancel and run npx webpack. And if you look at the dist folder, we have this sw.js. Let's take a look at it. No, cat sw.js. Dist, yeah. And it's basically the same as our code. Oh, we don't really need to import it. It's imported here, so let's go back. Always nice to figure these out during the live code. So let's run it again. And in the service worker code, they import the library for us, and they import this file, which we'll take a look at in a minute. And this is the code we wrote. And pay attention to this self_precache manifest, because this is coming from pre-cache manifest, the file that was automatically generated by Workbox. And this basically contains your assets, but it also has a plus with it, which is the revision. And this allows Workbox to be way more efficient than us writing the code manually, because it only updates the assets that have changed, and it can know if it changed based on the revision. So this is why a lot of people recommend using a tool, not writing service worker yourself, because it's just very efficient with the cache. If you were to write it yourself, you will have to clear the cache, add a new one every time, and that's going to be slow from a network perspective, also consume a lot of data. So let's go back to Webpack Dev Server and any new questions. I also want to mention something that in this live code, I'm not going to handle the update of the app. So just like if you're on the store, you need to tell the user there's a new version, allow them to update. So I have to do it from DevTools. This is, of course, not for production. And update takes around 20 minutes, so I cannot cover it in this talk. But every time you make a change to the Serviceworker, it will only update to the new one when you click skip waiting. Of course, for DevTools, you can click update on reload, and it's always showing you the fresher one. But this is only for development. This is not how we do it for end users. So now, let's keep this checked, and let's go to the cache. We have all of these files cached, which means now if we go offline, so go offline, will it work? I hope so. It works. So this is our app shell, and it still works offline. Why? Because even though the network request fails, it's actually getting them from the cache. And this cache's API, this cache is actually something you can access from the Windows scope. You have this caches API. So if you know the name of the cache, which is okay, it's a lot. Can we copy it? Workbox pre-cache v2 HTTP localhost 8080. We can go to the console and then caches.open. But this is going to return a promise, so you can await and then cache. And then you can cache.get if you get the index.html. What was it? Caches. Completely forget. The match if we're looking for all. Oh yeah, good point. It's the match. Sorry. So cache.match and then index.html, and it's going to return a promise. So await it. Const response with a typo. And you will get a response. The reason why I didn't get a response is because I have to type all of this, but I'm going to avoid it. What I was just showing you is that these caches, you can access them from the Windows scope if necessary. Now, let's go to the next step. And what we're going to do now is add the manifest. If you want to allow users to add your app to the home screen, you have to have an app manifest. And I already generated one before the talk because I'm not going to waste your time writing all of this. So what did we call it? Unicycle repair. And then you have to give it the theme color, the icons. I'm just using one of the icons for my project, so please don't use them in your code. And the background color, standalone, will hide the browser UI, and what is the start URL. Now you just need to link this in the index as a rel manifest, and then manifest.json. And you can test that in DevTools, which is very convenient. Just go to the application tab, but we need to go online again. All right, and you can see all of this here. These icons are just random icons. And now we're ready to ask the user to add the app to the home screen. So the way you do that is by listening to an event called, yes? Someone was saying it? It was correct, before install prompt. And this gives you an event object. Do recommend to prevent default on it because older versions of Chrome were showing the minibar at the bottom, which is annoying, especially if you have a tab bar. And this doesn't show it. But now this event object, you can call prompt on it whenever you're ready. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to say the add to home screen element. Let's show it. So we give it class show. And then this add to home screen, when the user clicks on it, what will we do? We will call event.prompt. And then this is blocking until the user says OK or cancel. And then you will have the user choice promise, which gives you the result. And this will be either dismissed or accepted under result.outcome. So we can console log result.outcome. And what I recommend for you is to always send this to analytics, because you want to understand what kind of users, what kind of devices are accepting or rejecting the prompt. Will it work? Yeah, so first, this is only showing up on browsers that support it, which is now, I think, Chrome, Edge, and Firefox, but not sure which one is it, stable or not stable. But it only shows up when the event fires, and the event will not fire if the user already added the app to the home screen, or if it's the first second that the user is on your domain, because it doesn't make sense to add a website you just saw. The browser will wait a few seconds and probably a gesture interaction. So now what you can do is you can click on it, and this is supposedly for mobile, but it also works on desktop. If you look over there, I'm going to cancel it, do it again. Okay, click on it, and then you get unicycle repeat. Repeat? Yeah, that was on purpose as well. You install it, and now you have an app without DevTools, of course, and you have it as an app over here. And this theme color is not because I have dark theme, it's because I specified it as 222. Okay, again, this is supposed to be for mobile. I will actually deploy this right now, so you can try it. That would be quite interesting. Let's go back. Let's build for production. So npx webpack-p. Then deploy the dist folder. Nice. Okay, worst domain name ever, but it's HTTPS superficial flock. If you want to try this on your phone, yeah, it's this domain. Make sure to have HTTPS. If you miss the HTTPS, this domain doesn't redirect, and you cannot get the service worker to work. So then you cannot get the add to home screen to work. Okay, let's get some questions meanwhile. How much money can we ask for this app, you think? How do you implement native components such as sliders or motion gestures such as a shake? I think you will need JavaScript for the shake. I don't know if we have access to the accelerometer for it. Yeah, that's a great website where you can see also browser support for it. Native component sliders. I think there is a slider component, input type range. Let's see. Yeah, you can use this one, and it works. Someone asked about Visual Studio extensions. They're not a lot. It's just Prettier and Peacock and Lit and these ones. Someone asked an important question, which is, how do you deal with iOS dropping app state when switching apps? Is this still happening? I think it was fixed in the last iOS version. The main problem with iOS now is that if you have authentication and the user adds the app to the home screen, this app on the home screen has a completely different state than Safari. So you're not logged into Facebook, you're not logged into GitHub. In that case, I generally just don't recommend pushing add to home screen for iOS users. Just keep them in the browser, and it works fine. And for Android, you can do it. And that's what I'm personally using, and it works fine-ish. Now, we have more time to do lit element things. So the reason why I like to use lit element is just because it's very, very tiny-ish. So we're gonna create a new file. It's only 6 kilobytes gzipped, so we'll create the, what was the first page called? App tasks. And then we will create this app tasks page, which extends from lit element. And then you have a render function, and then we just say it works, even though it won't. And then you need to register it, so custom elements.define, and then that's going to be app-tasks with the definition class app tasks. And you need to import this file, so we import it here. And there is something I like to do in most of my apps, the modern ones. This script tag here, which is at the bottom, I like to move it in the head, which is super scary, because if you just make it type equals module, or if you make it async, then it also acts like a preload header at the same time. You're telling the browser about it, but it also doesn't block rendering, so the browser can continue with the HTML. So it's just like doing a script at the bottom and having a preload at the top. I know this is 100% correct for type equals module. I just cannot remember for async. Can anyone confirm? It is? Most likely, yes? Yeah, in that case, we'd have to use defer to guarantee the order. Yeah. All right. Now let's go back here, and we need to serve. And it does not work. Oh, because we are running on the older version of the Serviceworker. So I technically had to go here, and then no, we have updated. Okay, so the reason why it didn't work the first time is because I was seeing the older version of the app, and I had to reload to see the new one. But this is the same thing with native apps. When you open a native app on your phone, it could be not the latest one. You will have to go to the store, check if there's a newer one, and update. You can kind of do the same with progressive web apps, but yeah, unfortunately, it's a little bit outside of the scope for now. But what we want to do here is, oh yeah, I still need to fix this, because if you click on the stock, it just reloads the page. So this is also part of the app shell, so then it has to go in the index.html as inline JavaScript. And that may also look weird, but you're basically giving full priority to the script, and it's going to be very minimal. So you say, I'm going to find all of the tabs, and then for every tab, is anyone using Addeventlistener nowadays? Yes. So I keep hearing about React, should try it one day. And then when you click on the tab, we will try to find the previous tab that was active, and then we remove the active from it. And then we find the one that was clicked, and then we give it a class list of active. And finally, event prevent default. And now reload. Let's see if it works. Click. Yeah, this one is active. And it's not changing pages, but there's something really important I want to talk to you about. This is not okay when we talk about user experience. See this empty gap here? This is super frustrating for users. So when building native-like progressive web apps, you want to really focus on these small details, and then this should be 100%. There should be no empty spots at the top or at the bottom. So I had a margin in there, I think. Yeah, a padding, true. There's a padding top. We can put it on the A element. And it's a really simple fix if it works, but yeah, that's really important here. And you also want to give feedback that is being clicked, potentially a ripple effect, but I only have 6 more minutes, so I don't think we're going to make it. You can also make it such that when you click on one of these pages, it scrolls to the second page, of course. But I'm going to skip that because you know how it works. And next, I'm going to create the second element, which is, what was the second element called? App stock. So we duplicate this, call it app stock. And that's going to be stock, and this is going to be app stock. And I'm going to assume there's a method here that says like activate, or so something, a custom method that you want to call when this page has rendered. You can do it with first updated, but I just want to show you something that has to do with performance and web components. So I'm just going to say console.debug, activate was called. And go back to the index, import this to app stock. Reload the page, we're going to have app stock, it works. And the nice thing about web components is that they are just HTML elements with their own properties and methods. So if you find the app stock, you can call activate on it, which is my own custom method. And that works great. Activate was called. Until you decide you start having a lot of components and you want to lazy load them. But thankfully, it's very easy. You just import as a function. This is a browser feature. You can use it in all browsers, but if you have Webpack or Parcel, it takes care of polyfilling it. There may be one browser missing from it yet. You just import it, and then you can have a promise when it actually loads. And it works, but this is going to break now, because at the moment this is running, app stock doesn't exist. So you can do it in multiple ways. You can do it with a .then here. I just want to show you another method with custom elements, because as your code grows, sometimes you don't have access to this import in the right file. What you can do is you can use this window.customelements. Anyone guessed it? Yes, yes. When defined. And you give it the name of the app stock. And this is basically returning a promise that will only resolve when the browser has the definition for app stock. And then, when defined, then it's kind of safe to call it. I say it's kind of safe because it may still not be in the DOM, but here I know that it's always going to be in the DOM. And then reload, and then activate was called. And I think what I did here is the main page is the one the user is going to see immediately. So I loaded this as a normal import. But this one, it's a secondary page, so then I lazy loaded it, because you want to make this load as fast as possible, and then lazy load all the other pages. So that was technically all. I'm gonna build and take some more questions. I'm gonna build to a new domain, just easier for me. Flashy squirrel. Don't forget the HTTPS if you want to try this. And let's see. Could you please check in the project to a public repository? Yes, I will do that, and I will tweet it afterwards. So put it on GitHub, then tweet it. Do you know why people say, and then I'll tweet it? They just want more followers. I don't know why they do that. Do we need Webpack? How to handle app updates when the service worker caches everything. I wish I can answer that in 1 minute, but it's really a bit more complicated. But what I did here is I gave a full talk about this topic, not as a live code, just a full talk. So I do recommend that you watch it if you're interested in this. And I also mentioned the update quickly. You can check out my website and my Twitter. What else? What about IE? Is it a serious question? Well, no, seriously, because you can still support IE with the script type module. Let me show you quickly. I know it's not a serious question, but it's good to bring it up. When you have a script type module, this will only run on modern browsers. It will be ignored by Internet Explorer. So you can ship modern JavaScript here, and then for old browsers, you can have a script that has a no module attribute, which is on purpose ignored by modern browsers. And then what you can do here, you can do main-legacy.js. And for this, you ship polyfills, you babel or babel it, and then this works for JavaScript. For CSS, I have no idea how you can make display grid work on IE. And for the final questions, how does it compare to automatic splash screens Android has? The question implies that they get generated automatically by Android. To be honest, I'm not aware of that. Are they? Okay, because if you try this app, you will have a splash screen as well. So so let me see if I open like the Twitter app. So you have the splash screen, and then you have the app shell, even on native apps. So it's basically doing the same thing. I think also for iOS, but I'm not 100% sure. Oh yeah, manual. Yeah. Okay, and so scroll snap support is from IE 10, not bad. Yes, but it has a different syntax. It's using an older version that you can also use. How maintainable is PWA like this? Can you use dependency bots? Not sure what the question is about. But I guess I'll just take the other questions afterwards. Thank you very much for having me, and I'll see you.